There will be no new accessions.
There is a lot of enlargement fatigue amongst our electorates.
That energizing the EU accession process.
Because the conditions for accession will not have been met. However,
Turkey's accession bid is now over a decade old.
As to why EU membership is important for these countries.
Strengthening democracy by respecting rights and freedoms.
Europe is a continent of mature democracies.
Pristina does not facilitate the negotiation process.
As to whether Turkey still wants to join the EU as much as it ever did.
Around the future European prospect of this country.
And building a true, really modern European state.
And that rules out EU membership for Turkey in the foreseeable future.
Germany, France, Italy, Belgium, Netherlands, Luxembourg were the original six from the Treaty of Paris in 1951. So then they decided that they wanted to expand the European Union, and they wanted also to make sure that Europe wouldn't have any other times of war or times of famine, or mostly a lot of just hardships for the countries as a whole. So, what happens when you become a candidate state and you pass these three criteria? After the countries pass these three criteria, they go through a 12-year process. And during the 12-year process, they get aid from net contributors within the European Union, and they are able to get representatives that come from the European Union to go help with infrastructure and creating a stable democracy and economy, so that they can become a real member of the European Union. Okay, so there have been 7 enlargements over the past years, and we started with the original 6. Then after that, 1973, we got UK, Denmark, and Ireland. And so graciously pours in. After that, we got 1981, Greece. And then 1986, Spain and Portugal, which was very successful under the supervision of Jacques Delors. Spain got a lot of money, so did Portugal, but Spain really got the best deal. And they got a lot of infrastructure and a lot of wealth put into their economy. Then after that was 1995, Austria, Finland, Sweden. Norway also got accepted in here, but they actually declined to join. They actually joined in 2 years and immediately became net contributors. And then we went to 2004, which is the Big Bang. We have 8 former Soviet states after the fall of the Soviet Union. And then there's 2 Mediterranean states that also joined. And then 2007, we have Bulgaria and Romania. And the most recent one is 2013, Croatia. And that sums it up for the 7 enlargements, and now we just have to look for the future. We have 28 member states, but unfortunately may become 27 soon.
Pero profesora, ¿por qué es posible que vayamos a ser 27?
Excellent question. That, my dear friend, can be answered by my associate over here.
Well, Fraser, since you asked, the Brexit situation is a little bit complicated these days. So Britain joined the European Union in 1973, which was also a pretty tumultuous year because there was a gas and oil crisis, which meant that Britain got a pretty bad deal when they joined the European Union, and they've been annoyed about that ever since. So in 2016, the United Kingdom held a referendum to vote whether or not they wanted to leave the European Union. So as we know now, the referendum resulted in the population choosing to leave the European Union. So since its entrance into the EU, Britain has had a history of anti-integration sentiments because they prefer intergovernments, which means that each individual member state keeps its own national government, its own sovereignty. So they don't really care for the whole supranational aspect of the European Union. And so as such, the population seems pretty ignorant these days about what the European Union means.
Pero profe, he oído algo de después del referéndum había tanta gente buscando por Google qué es la Unión Europea.
That's correct, Fraser. Because the population is pretty ignorant about what it means to be part of the European Union, the older generation has been able to manipulate the population into thinking that the UK's problems stem from their presence in the European Union. And as such, the population just eats it up because they don't really know what that means. But the younger generation, however, has a different view, and they would like a second referendum because they would choose to stay if they had the opportunity. As of today, the Brexit situation is definitely still a mess because we had a Prime Minister called Theresa May who tried to make a deal with the European Union and leave in a cohesive manner, but she failed, obviously, and now we have new Prime Minister Boris Johnson who is looking to make a very clean, abrupt exit from the European Union, but he hasn't been able to do that yet.
I'm from Ireland, and I think it's very interesting to see the effect that it'll have on Ireland because Ireland is so connected to the UK culturally, socially and economically as well. There's the island of Ireland is divided into the Republic of Ireland and the North of Ireland, so it will mean that the North of Ireland will no longer be part of the EU, but Ireland will still be. So they will have to enforce borders. There's a situation now, and the peaceful situation on the island of Ireland is very dependent on not having hard borders. And so the UK leaving the EU would mean that there would have to be some kind of a border to prevent, in terms of economically, so that traders wouldn't go between. So it'll be interesting to see what will happen, and you can see the effects already, and there's more of a tense situation in the north.
What is the future of enlargement? To learn more, follow me.
There are currently 6 candidate countries in the European Union: Bosnia and Herzegovina, the Republic of North Macedonia, Albania, Serbia.
Can't forget Montenegro.
Thank you, Nina. And Turkey. There is an issue in Turkey, with the country holding virtually the same population size as Germany, thus holding the same potential voting power as Germany. The underlying question is, where does Turkey stand in all this? Because Turkey has been waiting for 20 years in the enlargement process, there's been plenty of time for Russian influence to develop. So, the underlying question is, why has it taken so long? Turkey is a Muslim state. With that being said, there's been a rise in Islamophobia, especially after the Syrian war, where thousands of refugees migrated to Europe, and because of this, there has been considerable hesitation in letting Turkey integrate into the EU. After all, it is a lesser developed country compared to the rest of Europe, and it has to figure out a way to integrate over 80 million Turkish citizens. Many European citizens don't believe that Turkey is part of Europe.
Essentially, the question that must be answered is, what is Europe actually? Many people choose to define Europe geographically or continentally, where they believe that the only countries that should be part of the European Union are the ones that are confined by what are considered the European borders. This argument is sort of shaky because obviously we know that there are parts of Europe that aren't continental, such as the United Kingdom, the Canary Islands, and the Azores. They're all still part of Europe because that territory is controlled by a European power, but they are not technically continental. This begs the question of whether or not former colonies and commonwealths are part of Europe, because even though they might not be part of the European single market, they're still very aligned with the European economy in general because they were once controlled by European powers. Other people choose to define Europe culturally. Because Europe is largely Christian or Catholic, many people are hesitant to accept non-Christian states into the European Union. This is what's happening in the situation of Turkey, where many people are hesitant to accept a Muslim state whose rule of law may not coincide with what many Europeans consider to be a European value system. This is once again pretty faulty logic, because Europe is already made up of so many diverse identities and cultures that there is no one European identity or culture. People from all different backgrounds in all different parts of the world are part of Europe, and it's clear that you are European if you believe in the cause, and if you believe in furthering the interests of Europe as a whole. One view in particular that has shaped the ideology surrounding enlargement is that of the French President Emmanuel Macron. In October 2019, Macron vetoed accession negotiations in Albania and North Macedonia, which will effectively prevent the two countries from becoming member states anytime soon. Macron said that Europe needs to fix its problems domestically before turning to the idea of foreign enlargements. Ideally, Macron wants to create a three-tier Europe, which consists of an inner circle of economically strong and cohesive Eurozone members, a second circle of European Union members who are part of the single market but not the Eurozone, and an outer circle that is less integrated economically but still represents what Europe stands for through what Macron calls a union of values, democratic principles, and economic freedoms. More or less, what Macron intends to do is maintain elite, concentrated European power, which he believes is more important than forming an integrated community that will further the interests of European citizens as a whole.
En mi opinión, los países candidatos a la Unión Europea que deberían ser aceptados en el futuro podrían ser Montenegro o Macedonia del Norte, puesto que podrían ayudar con la cultura, a que conozcamos más su cultura y también en general para la economía de Europa. Y por otro lado, pienso que no deberíamos todavía añadir a Turquía por tener una religión diferente, y en este momento la religión musulmana está teniendo mucha controversia y puede provocar ciertos problemas, teniendo en cuenta que ha habido bastantes ataques terroristas en países de la Unión Europea importantes, y no creo que estemos todavía preparados como continente y cada país de forma separada para asimilar esa nueva cultura y religión dentro de la Unión Europea.
The future of the European Union is far from predictable. Every day, Europe faces new dilemmas that have never been encountered before. As Europe heads deeper into the 21st century, it must adapt and grow to support the interests of its citizens. Those whom it can adopt, it must adopt. In an increasingly globalized world, states should not have to be the little fish in the big pond. Now, more than ever, it is the responsibility of Europe to diversify, integrate, and exemplify the power of coexistence.